Good morning. Namaste. Really good to be connecting with you again in this way for these brief live question and answer sessions where we can dig deeply into spiritual development and just talk about whatever topics seem to be present in the human conscious collective and really applicable to your lives. So here I am, keeping it real with you. um, so strongly feeling this topic right now. It came up in a discussion yesterday, and I thought, wow, we haven't talked about this in a very long time. And so many of you ask me this in our Patreon classes. These topics come up, and we have quite a few galactic history classes available there that go very deep into this subject. But I also just thought I would take the time to answer your questions, connect with you about it, and just really dig more deeply into why it matters. So many of you ask me that in private sessions and in mentorship. I do spiritual development mentorships as well. So you ask me that in your sessions, why does it matter? How does it connect to purpose? Is there DNA that we're carrying over from being starseeds? Did it happen in the past, or is it happening in a parallel reality right now? What are the personality characteristics, the preferences, the spiritual abilities, the talents? What is there anything negative that's carrying over? Do we have particular emotional karmic patterning that's carried over in thought process? The answer is yes when you choose, or yes if you ever choose to remember. Otherwise, if you're not aware of it, it isn't relatable. It isn't relevant to your life when you don't know. If you're still spiritually asleep, then it's going to be impossible to know what you are carrying over in what I call etheric DNA. So I'm really ready to talk and answer your questions about this in a really authentic way right now, and kind of get down and dirty with this, incredibly real with this right now. So talk about Grusians, just another Maldekian race. I mean, what do you want to know about them? There are many types of starseeds and extraterrestrials that we could talk about. Hi, Anya. Hi, Edna. Hi, Amidala. If you get more specific with your question, I'll talk about it. But generally speaking, talking about each galactic race, we can, but it's nothing that you haven't heard before, probably. So what do you want to know about them? Hey, Jamina. Hey, Julie. What I have to say about them is you need to know, hey, Jan, what it is. Like, what is it that we're actually talking about when I say etheric DNA? Let me pull the screen over here so I can see your chat a little bit more. Give me just a second. So I don't want the screen to be in my way, but I also want to be able to see everything that you're talking about. Hey, Irene. So etheric DNA, what that is what scientists call junk DNA. That's DNA that's kind of dormant, sleeping, if you will. It's at the base of your spine, which what many people know of as Kundalini energy rises from that area. Well, one of the areas it would be, rising. Yes, this is live, Torban. That's called the seat of knowledge at the tailbone, like at the base of the spine. And in your brain, there are 3 different areas of the brain that also activate the DNA that's sitting dormant at the base of the spine. And that dormancy there in the bones, this is very physiological. In science, they call it junk DNA, DNA that you have no accessibility to. Therefore, scientists believe that because you can't access it, that it is useless. I have a different opinion. So as I have observed thousands of people over the past 21 years of working with you, I've observed thousands of people going through mild to intense, mild to wild, let's call it that, mild to wild spiritual awakenings, just incredibly powerful awakenings. And as I observed that, I noticed that this allegedly junk DNA gets to be, oh my goodness, overpowering. So it literally becomes to be, it gets more active. And if science were researching this, some of them are, this is kind of the brink of scientific research. If they were researching that DNA, if geneticists were researching spiritually awakened people, then they would see that our DNA, that we're using more than 10% of our brain, because that's what scientists say that we're currently using is less than 10%. In the beginning stages of awakening, I'll see people use a little bit more than 10%, like 10 to 15. And then in a little bit stronger awakening, I'll see about 20, and then sometimes I see 30 to 40. And then sometimes I see above 50, which is really rare, like 50 to 100. So this is something that one of my masters talk about that I love very much. His name is Master LaValle. He is a master of ACIM. If you guys want to look up his book, it's called How to Become a Christ. And he observed the exact same thing that I did. I met him only a few years ago. He started teaching me about this and just kind of confirming what I was seeing, because I didn't know any other, enlightened master that really had observed this in the human brain and in the human spine, that basically the brain activates that DNA in the spine. And then you begin to use more than 10%, 20%, 30 to 40%, and then 50% and up. So he will kind of call the people who are using more than 10% psychics and channels. So that's the basis of what we all can do when we use like anything more than 10% of our brain, like up to 20. And then from like 20 to 40, I think he says that is when you become more of a teacher. That's a teacher capacity. 40% and up, I believe he calls saint mentality. So that's the level of healers and saints giving blessings, which is about currently where I am. And then there is like above 50%, which is full Christ consciousness, where most people in that stage would leave the body, like they cannot hold that in form. So I'm somewhere between the saint mentality and the Christ conscious mentality, according to him anyway, and according to most of my masters. If I get to 100% use of my brain, I would not need a form and you would not see me anymore. You would think that I'm allegedly dead, right? Are you guys following me? I'm really going deep on this with you because you've asked me to. So scientifically speaking, there are levels of this spiritual awakening, and it is triggered by how much awareness you have of this etheric DNA that scientists call junk DNA that is sitting at the base of your spine. And when it begins to awaken, you are calling that Kundalini rising. I just call it the Great Spiritual Awakening. And you go through stages. And what I do in this lifetime is help you be comfortable, safe, and emotionally stable. I help activate those gifts in a comfortable, safe, and emotionally stable way, because otherwise, with all this happening, if you have no meditation, you have no teacher or guru to guide you through it, you have no healer or anyone who can emotionally hold space for you, then it becomes psychologically unsafe. And this is why psychosis happens. This is why dark night of the soul happens, severe anxiety disorders, et cetera, et cetera. You follow me? This is where shit gets crazy, right? So, and you're coming to me and you're like, I'm seeing stuff and I don't know it's real, and I'm hearing stuff and I don't know that it's real. When people don't really know what to do with that, schizophrenia at the worst case scenario happens. And then doctors label you with a disorder. If you want to learn more about that, read my book called, my blog called Imprisoned Prophets. I don't know why that slipped out. Do I need to write a book about it? Basically, I got really clear about that in my blog called Imprisoned Prophets. And it talks about the core beliefs and the emotions that cause these alleged disorders and conditions. Okay. So if you don't have a real grasp on what's going on in your starseed nature, and all this etheric DNA becomes activated, your talents and abilities are activated before you even know how to be aware of your breath. This is why I also teach yoga. This is why I created Kripa Yoga. That is, translates to yoga of grace in Sanskrit. And it's not about the physicality and the asana. It's about how you breathe, how you're aware of energy flowing through. There's a lot of Kundalini techniques and kriyas in it. For those of you Kundalini yogis, you will understand that a lot of these kriyas are modified from some Yogananda kriyas, as well as standard traditional Kundalini kriyas, as well as kriyas that you've never even heard of before that aren't in any books. So it's a combination of those things, combination of shamanism. It's a combination of qigong. It's a combination of pranic breathing and pranayama techniques. It's a combination of the 8 branches of yoga, pulling them all together into unique kriyas that bring you into your awareness of what's going on in your spiritual awakening. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad that you kind of quantified your question and expanded that a little bit further. Amidala, she said, I was told I have Grusian root DNA imprint. The root DNA imprint, what that person likely means is what other people are calling origins, or where your creative beginning happened. So in true oneness, there is no beginning and there will never be an end. And this is hard to wrap our brain around, but source or God, and that's not religious, by the way, just universal source, has always been in existence and will always be. And basically, that's the level of something that is perfect already. It doesn't need to have a beginning or an ending or an expansion. In our dream, we dream that we have a beginning with certain imprints. And what they mean by DNA imprints is certain preferences that enable talent, spiritual abilities, personality strengths, and what you would label weaknesses. I don't view it that way, but some people do. Likes and dislikes, and certain things that create a contract for you to expand in unique ways. So that is just, they're telling you where you're from, basically, where you're from in the creative environment. Is that making sense? What's the difference between Kripa and Kriya? Kriyas in all branches of yoga are unique movements of breath and body that basically get energy flowing into your form. So they help ground you, they help wake you up, they help activate the nadis, which are the central energetic points within the chakra systems and further outside of it as well. And when you activate those energy and meridian points and nadis in your body, those kriyas do that. So they help you mentally and physically ground and activate safely. So that is why I created that. Kripa yoga is my unique type of yoga, which combines all 8 branches. And it combines different branches of older types of yoga as well. So that Kripa is my unique form of yoga. It's called Kripa Yoga. You can learn more about it on patreon.com /Pamela Aaralyn, levels 2 and up. You get all access to Kripa Yoga there. And what to do. It starts with something that's called source tones, which we discussed a little bit yesterday. I have a lot of access to what's called divine sound or divine sound current. So basically, I feel it, hear it, it just flows through me. And I'm a very frequency-oriented person. I've been hearing those unusual sounds since I was a small child, since my awakening at age 5. And I just started feeling that out and trying to figure out where these sounds were coming from. So I do that, and I give you your unique sound. And then you get to chant it in your mind and then eventually out loud. And it becomes sadhana, it becomes a spiritual practice. And it is the basis, 20 to 22 minutes a day. It is the basis of Kripa Yoga. So that's what that is. And that's how it starts. Can you talk about DNA imprints? We have 90, right? And that's different from other ETs who have 1 to 10 only. I'm not sure where you're getting that information. I will tell you that that cannot be confined or labeled as this is the way it is. Galactic history isn't that way, because every extraterrestrial experiencing that you go through creatively, you will choose how many DNA imprints you have and how it would be different from other experiences that you're having in other parallel environments, whether it be as a human or a Pleiadian or a Lyran or a Maldekian or whatever it is that you are experiencing. So every unique creative being will likely have a different imprint. And it kind of gets a little bit different when you talk about soul families. When you come in groups, which many of you do, then you may be choosing as a collective large group to have 90. And then another group that's smaller or larger may be choosing to have 1 to 10 only. And the truth is, you just never know, because you are the fractals of God, are constantly changing, shifting, evolving, expanding. So for me to say it's this and that's what it is, you will not see me do that ever, because we are creative beings. And that is all when it comes to that. So it's not about how we're different than other ETs. There are some ETs, however, like I've observed the rather non-sentient. What I mean by that is they're not learning through the senses. Those type of extraterrestrials have 1 to 10 only, and those are what I call grays. And they just don't have, they literally do not have emotional chakra systems. They do not process through the heart chakra or the anahata or through chakras at all, for that matter. They don't process in that way. So that's all that means. They have less because they don't need as much. They don't learn in the way that we do, and it is different. I'm going to save that one about nonverbal autistic children. They're definitely strong star seeds. I might save it for a different topic, if you don't mind. It's just so that I can stay on topic with where we are. Yeah, Morgan, she said her source stone changed the game for me. You want to tell us how? Yeah, a lot of you have been through that. Where can I find your information on other entities? You can find it on patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. Or if you look under my recorded classes on PamelaAaralyn.com, I sell those classes for very, very cheaply over there as well. So anything that I think there's one called Galactic History of Lyran Felines. There's quite a few. There's a Pleiadian one. I cover the basics of galactic history there on PamelaAaralyn.com. And then I cover them more extensively also on Patreon. Yeah, so they're there in that library. Oh, that is interesting. Huh. I'll go there, even though it's slightly off topic. Is it good to be afraid of psychopaths, the non-empaths, non-sentients, or do we need compassion more than scared? Well, let me ask you this. Who do you think out of all the collectives on this earth require more compassion and healing? If we all put all of that compassion towards those who need it most, and this might trigger some of you, the murderers, the rapists, the child trafficking, abductors. I'm going to really, really trigger you and catalyze you further. The abductees, the people in the realm of what you call the victim, the victim of the rapist, the victim of the murderer, the victim of the child trafficking circle, they actually don't need it. They are incredibly evolved beings who are teaching you how to forgive their alleged perpetrators. That is the game on earth. That is why that's happening, so that you stop creating this game of murderer victim, killer victim, rapist victim, that whole duality ridden imprint of power over, power under. And as long as you aren't forgiving, the problem continues. Send your compassion and forgiveness to those who need it most. No, to answer your question, it is not good to be afraid of anything or anyone. Now, is it good to be stupid? Absolutely not. Do you want to put yourself right in harm's way? Absolutely not. Don't go to the other extreme as well. Like, don't do that. Be sensible. Use your intuition and trust it. But send them compassion in a safe way. Mingzu, I'm going to save that topic for another day because I don't find it incredibly relevant with, transgender situations. All people would disagree upon what, Torborn? I'm just catching up with your comments. Tony, that is common in the basis of a spiritual awakening. As you become aware, her question is, why does she get chills and tingles on her body? As you become really aware of the way that you are activated in your etheric DNA from your starseed nature, you start going deeper into your story. The stories currently are spirit guides, angels, Akashic records. You start tapping into the story. If you did not know that any of those beings could possibly exist in human stories, what do you think you would do? Just curious. If you guys didn't know that this existed, spirit guides, angels, higher self, guardians, ancestors, yeah. Um, what do you think you would do? You would say it must be a part of me that wants to get in touch because you would view nothing as separate. So you would have no choice if you didn't understand and agree upon the contract of belief in separation. You would think it's you. You'd have no other conditioning to prove otherwise, right? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, Tor, when you're saying people would disagree about forgiving the victims of rape. I'm not so sure that they would. And most of my students would understand that forgiveness is relevant. I think you're saying when I was saying forgive the perpetrators, that you would disagree and that most would disagree. I would really like a show of hands on that. Because I think that most people listening right now understand that the reason why rapists and murderers and abusers exist in this society is because they haven't been forgiven, so they continue to do it. And as long as a sick society isn't forgiven, the society will continue to be insane and sick. If you don't forgive it, it continues. Not forgiving them only hurts you. And whether you're a victim or not, if you're carrying around that pain, this is why cancers happen, because it turns into a festering resentment that eats you from the inside out. If you can't forgive them, you're going to carry that to a pretty early grave, I'm sorry to say. So it hurts, I know. And, you are speaking to a rape victim, a 4-year abductee of a rape victim in an isolated place being raped over and over and over. That's my life, or was at that time in my 20s. Forgiveness was the key. I could not possibly go deeper, into that. Yeah, Almeida, you have a really powerful thing that you're saying. I have no idea why YouTube wouldn't approve of your comment. I just had to manually approve of it. Sorry about that. We just got off on a whole different topic, but the rapists and the murderers are actually non-sentient starseeds. This is how it relates, okay? I know that your culture makes excuses and blames victims, and that's not okay. It really isn't. Yeah. Yes, I was a victim of a rapist for 4 years. I was abducted and carried off by myself and tortured. Not a lot of you know about that. It's actually probably only the second time that I've spoke about it publicly, but you need to know, because when I tell you these things, I tell you these things from personal experiences where I had to learn to forgive while being stabbed, beaten, raped. So I'm not telling you this from someone who's had a perfect little angelic sheltered life, which apparently might be what you think of me. And it's time for you to know that I have worked hard to get to forgiveness, to teach about forgiveness. And everything that I share with you from a teacher's perspective about forgiveness is lived through. Otherwise, I would not be qualified to teach about it. Correct? You understand? So when I say this with compassion to you because I have been there. And yes, it was one of my contracts. And I say this because I can now talk about it without feeling like a victim. I can talk about it, and no one knew. And now, when you know that I talk about it, that I have done it, that I am a living, walking, breathing example of forgiveness to a 4.5 year degree, right? So it gives you permission to connect with me about it and not think that I am on the enlightenment pedestal just because I have, gone through and awakened to enlightenment. There was a contract. It wasn't easy. Some of us have harder contracts than others, right? So the back to the murderers and the rapists and the people who do these things, they are non-sentient. They have no heart chakra activation. Like, I look at these beings and I do not see a heart chakra. I do not see it energetically active in their form. It's just dead heart chakra. I see no energy, no compassion in them. They don't know what it knows. They don't know what it feels like to really connect in that way. Oh, Patricia, by the way, I got your email. I just haven't been able to respond to it. Yes, you're welcome to work with me. I'd love it. Sorry about that. Yesterday was so busy. I got so many emails from you after my last Q&A here that I just kind of got a little overwhelmed. So I have a volunteer assistant right now. So we're doing what we can to get there, and to also to offer you the 33% discount code. We just need to create it so that we can give it to you. When you join Patreon right now, you get that 33% off of personal sessions and mentorships with you. So once we get that code active again, we'll be able to personally email you back that code. We're just really overwhelmed right now. Yeah, we have 33% off. That's my gift to you. And it's only for this month. Like, if you purchase it for this month, it's only in June. And it's just to reconnect and to go deeper into these teachings, because I want so strongly to share these things with you. So, oh, Donald, that is a freaking fabulous question. He said, if you forgive them, why would they stop their abuse? Because then there's no victim. A perpetrator has to have a dualistic role to enact it towards, like, and with. They have to have a player. It takes two to tango. It takes a dance partner, correct? They can't abuse themselves. If there's no more victims in society, because we've all forgiven, then no one's afraid. Then there's no fear. And the fear is what attracts. That's how they learn, is through fear. If you're afraid, you become that. If you're not afraid because you're forgiven, you do not become that, and there are no more. So you begin to, by process of elimination, obliterate the fear that's everywhere. Then there's no alignment. There's no dance partner to the rapist. There's no victim. Thank you, Lisa. I like that you show up. I'm trying to understand your question, Cher. Can you say it in a different way? I'm trying to connect, but the chat is going boom, 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 and I can't. It's a deep question, and I know it's good. I just want you to say it in a different way. Yeah, Torborn, if you get scared when you're around people who are in pain, your wound is still active. So I would suggest sitting with one of my quantum alchemy facilitators. I right now, do you know that I only have 3 officially certified quantum alchemy facilitators? Which is another thing. This is the process that helps you get through those traumas. And I love to do it. I do personally offer it, but I train facilitators to offer it as well. And there are only 3. So if you want to become a facilitator and help other people through these traumas, that's how you do it, with mentorship. I teach you that one-on-one. And I'm only going to be teaching in mentorships for one-on-one. My goal is for the next 2 years. So by the end of 2020, you won't have that opportunity anymore. It will only be facilitators that I've trained. So now's the time, and I've been giving incredible discounts to make that happen. But I think that when it comes to what you're saying, Torborn, about not feeling, you have a wound and it's active, and you need to look at it. You need to pull it up to the surface for healing and integration. Healthy help you get through trauma. Absolutely, Edna. I wrote a blog called The Boundaries It's called, if you Google Pamela Aaralyn Boundaries, there's a blog that comes up. There is a 5-step process. This blog is called Boundaries, the Final Frontier. It's on my website, PamelaAaralyn.com. So if you just Google my name and Boundaries, again, you will find it. And it has a 5-step process of setting a healthy boundary with compassion, and it is channeled from Yeshua. Not a lot of people know that as well. It's free right there on my website. I did it because I lived it. And this is what helped me heal from so much and helped me then maintain. It was maintenance after healing from all of that pain and trauma. Okay. I'm getting your question now, Cher. She says, in other words, did the murderer choose the story of having a closed heart or no chakra before entering this life? Yes, they do that to give the alleged victim an opportunity for deeper expansion. And the victim chooses that lesson as the victim to teach other people to forgive the perpetrator. So it is kind of a 3-way contract between the perpetrator, the victim, and all the friends and family of the victim. Okay. This is how we heal the world. I know some of you are thinking in your head right now, that's super messed up. Yeah, the dream is insane. It really is. But when you awaken and you see everything in love, then there's no more insanity. If we forgive what's going on in this insane world, there's no more reason or alignment to constant insanity in our religions, in our political systems, in the perpetrator victim role, in any of that, in genocide. I could go on and on, in starvation, in poverty, in drought. You know what I'm saying. I could continue, but I think you're getting the point here. And when we begin to awaken, we activate that starseed DNA, that etheric DNA from parallel realities. It's happening at the same time. And then we call those fractals of us who are living in other bodies and other star systems in a parallel timeline, we call them spirit guides. Are you getting it now? And we create this dream that those aliens are out there up in the sky somewhere, and they are our guides, not us, to help us out of our allegedly bad situation. It's actually the opposite way around. Now, here's my truth on this. And again, as a galactic historian for the past 21 years, this has been what I have collected most strongly about extraterrestrials and starseeds. They are actually learning from you because they are fractals of you that are experiencing in another timeline in a parallel reality. Okay? This is how we are dreaming collectively. And you have a dream that you are separate from them, that you are a separate being, lesser than, in a difficult reality, and that someone more evolved, external of you, out in the Pleiades, or in Lyra, or in Andromeda somewhere, can wake you up. Thank you for that. Whoever just boosted me there in the super chat. I really appreciate when you give me those tips. They're phenomenal and they go towards great things, like being able to provide 33% discounts on mentorships for you. So thank you for that tip. So anyway, basically you create this dream that's something separate and better than. And when you start to wake up, you start to see that they are fractals of you. So that's it. God splits off into fractals and creates dreams of being separate so that it can learn in various forms. God may decide to be an alien, a human baby, a rock, a bug, a tree, a river, a rock at the bottom of a river. Suddenly one of my favorite childhood songs just came up, The Hole in the Bottom of the Sea. Do you guys remember that? It's kind of like that. The galactic history is kind of like that. Please don't make me sing it. But do you hear it in your head right now? Fabulous song. Very, very, very fun. So anyway, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that song where they discuss, okay, there's a hole in the bottom of the sea. And then after that, they go into the second line where there's a log in the hole at the bottom of the sea. And then we dream that there's like a knot on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. And then there's a frog that's sitting on the knot on the log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. So they're talking about different ways to add on to something that is already there and perfect. But we like to choose a different expression of that perfect. And that's why we choose form in various ways. And we call it something separate. We call it angels. We call it spirit guides. We call it God. Oh my goodness, we have so many. India has India has more animal gods. It's like a divine zoo up there. Let me tell you what. It is incredible how many gods, prime creators you guys have. You got a monkey god. I think you got a cow god. You got a dog god. I think you have a cat one too. Hanuman looks a little bit kitty and monkey sometimes. You have so many things, and it's all one expression on top of another. Are you guys following me? I'm trying to simplify, but sometimes I don't do well at it. Can I switch places with your higher self? It doesn't work that way because it's not a place to be switched. You are that and this and many things simultaneously, and there is no greater than or lesser than. In order to be on earth, can I tell you, as a medium who watches what happens after you leave the form and get out of this dream, I get to observe what you choose. As a medium, all of my life, what I observe is that there are lines of spirits waiting to get into bodies. You guys, when you leave form, and especially those of you who commit suicide and you say, I'm never freaking doing this again. By the way, the universe doesn't hear never, no, not, should not, could not, would not. The universe hears bring it on. Aloha, Kellyo. Hi. So you're waiting. Your spirits are waiting. There's a massive queue currently of billions of you waiting to get in here to learn here. Yeah. But what do you do when you get here? You're like, it's hard and I want to get out. And then when you go back into spirit, you're like, oh, I see. You look at your life review and you're like, oh, I see how that was beautiful. Can I get back in, please? And then you're waiting in queue. Don't wait in queue. Waiting in queue really sucks, right? You're here. Enjoy it. Make the best out of it. Stop trying to get away. How do angel guides sound when you hear them? Have you ever watched City of Angels? I don't watch a lot of movies, but the few that I have watched kind of stick with me. You know, that's with Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage, and all of you are drooling right now. Some of you are ridiculously like onto Nicolas Cage, like you love him, like you love him. I don't get it. I mean, he's okay. Yeah, you were like, I so want to be Meg Ryan in that movie. Yeah, I'm hearing you. So anyway, it sounded like the scene where he was on the beach and they were all singing together. It sounds a little bit like that, except that is the most fundamental way that I could share it with you. And it's actually like 100 or 200 or 300 times more beautiful than that even. So one of the gifts that I came into with this lifetime, and I sang before I talked. So my biggest gift, more than anything else, is my voice. So I attempt to recreate those angelics. That is why you are so attracted to my songs and my voice, because they are healing. They're angelic. They come from those realms, and you remember them because you too are angels. Not because I'm better than, greater than, I am angelic. I simply realize it. So it's because you are too, and it sounds like home. That's why you like to listen to my voice. I'm going to go watch that movie again now. It sounds good. Just replay that one part over and over again. Nicolas Cage is not your current cup of tea, huh, Audra? That's good to know. That's funny. Not mine either. All right, we only have about 10 more minutes, so now it's time to really throw in your questions. Okay, here's one from Carlos. Do walk-ins wait in line too? Oh my gosh, they do. But walk-ins kind of get the trump card. Somebody's going to ask me about politics now. My guys are like, why did you say that? So walk-ins, I am an 8-time walk-in. 8 fractals of me. It's not some separate being. They're all me because I don't perceive separation. I don't perceive Lilith and some of those beings that have walked in as separate from me. I perceive her as me. So walk-ins get first dibs on that, on getting to Earth, because they are very, very mastered. You cry when I sing. I hear that a lot. You guys, tell me about that. Tell me about why you feel like you cry when I sing. I want to hear your perspective on that. Mm, yeah, you call upon your autistic daughter's guardians to help her every day. Okay, that's the dream of what we're calling upon divine help. That's the dream that we've created. What I'm here to teach you to do is to go in here for it, to realize you are that help. So when I teach galactic history, a lot of the things that I share in my classes is that they actually aren't coming to save you. That dream isn't relevant anymore. I've seen it in other parallel experiencing, but in this dream, what I'm noticing is that you are here to empower, and in your human connection to each other, you will collectively rise. You understand what I'm saying? Heaven is here. There's nowhere to go because it's inside of you. Can you speak about imprints? What do you want to know? There's different ways that people view imprints, and there's different types of imprints. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Hmm, that's a hard one. Rachel says the anti-Kel antigen came up again for her third baby. So that's a genetic carryover, is what that is through etheric DNA. And she said, I'm wondering what I can do for the baby and what my spirit guides can do to assist. You are that child's spirit guide. What I urge you to do is to see that that child chose you to meet its needs, and that that child chose, and probably others too, the antigen coming up for a specific purpose to teach you in a new way, and for you to hold a space of safety and comfort and compassion and power and all of those things. So it's not something that needs to be corrected. It's something that needs to be trusted. I also speak from experience. There's a lot, all of my kids were, um, yeah, I have 4 children. Um, I had 1 stillborn and 1 miscarriage. So if you count those, that's a 6-time mother. And 4 out of those were positive for the same antibody, and especially positive for Down syndrome. So each of the 4, the doctors were saying, "Are you sure you wanna? Are you sure you wanna? Are you sure you wanted?" And I'm like, "Don't even ask me. Why did we even look to see? Because I don't care about that. What I care about is that there's an obvious child wanting to come into this world, and it's happening because I said so." Yeah. So that comes from a particular starseed background where the starseed DNA is having a difficult time merging with the human DNA, and complications happen. Earth is a massive galactic experiment. Trying to merge human DNA with starseed DNA is very, very difficult because it's like asking the light bodies to densify, to pull into a dense form, to lower a frequency, if you will, is the most ragged way that I could share it with you. So that's difficult, and sometimes we don't get that right, right? Um, can you speak of Rh negatives, specifically O negative? I've noticed that O negative blood types have a genetic carryover, particularly from Andromedan background. Now, I'm not a negative. I'm not an Rh negative. A lot of people are really surprised by that. I'm actually a universal donor. I'm O positive. So that is Lyrans and Pleiadians generally, the healers, and the people who come in to activate with healing energy have the positives, and particularly O positives. So, what are cats and souls in cat forms here to experience? It depends upon the cat. Again, we'd have to talk to each and every cat because they are what I call soul carryovers. So basically, if you observe the behaviors in your cats and dogs in particular, they have etheric DNA that is kind of like piggybacking yours, and they come into this world with you or shortly thereafter. And they basically are there to piggyback off your experience to teach you who and what you are. So if you notice, Cats with particular temperaments. There's something in you that can relate to the same temperament. Your cat's peeing everywhere. What are you pissed off about? Your cat's scratching up a storm with everybody. Okay. Are you avoiding and being antisocial and having some anxiety and your cat's trying to tell you? There's various reasons for that. But cats come from Lyra. And in that galactic history background, I call them the Lyran feline beings. The soul group is called the lion people. So no matter what we call it, yeah, cats come from that. What do you do when you feel a child wanting to come in, but not in the position to bring one in with a partner or lack thereof? Number one, why are you observing what position you need to be in order to have a child? You basically just limited yourself. You basically just shot that theory all up. The child's wanting to come in and you're like, no, little baby, you better wait until I get this right and that right. I got to get my A, B, C, D, E order just right and all of my baby ducks in a row before I bring in a baby. Right? So you are feeling something that you are resistant to. And if a child's wanting to come and you feel it, it's your choice. It's always your choice. But why are you limiting yourself is my question. I say that from experience. Yeah. Hmm. Well, David says, I am spiritually awakened since February. Good job. There's one thing that seems to hold me back, and I haven't gotten any answer from it, and it is consenting religious beliefs. One is the Holy Ghost tongue. I'm not sure I understand what your question is and why that holds you back. Can you ask in a different way? You are source. In order for me to understand your galactic history, you would need to be face to face. And while I don't do face to face readings, I do them on Zoom. So that's the thing that I use. And you can go to my website. And I need to see your eyes, and I can't see them on a chat right now. This is where I could, but it would take too long while I'm trying to answer all these questions. It takes a little bit more time. I need to clear my chakras. This is holding me back. Really? This is Oh, okay. I'm going to really try not to get triggered by that, but it's not going to work. So, chakras are man-made concepts. If you didn't know that they exist, they wouldn't. When I see babies come in the world, guess what? I don't see chakra systems. Chakra systems come when belief systems are implanted into people from parents and societies. And societies, rather insane conditionings. And chakras are one of them. And I work with them. I teach people techniques to clear them because you keep believing that you need them. Okay? You keep believing that you need them to clear them and to make them better and to make them more expanded and that they're blocked and that they're all these things. They're not most of the time until you start putting the focus there. It's the same about the beliefs in seeing angelic numbers. When people are saying 111, 222, 333, 555, 777, and you ask me why you see them, and I'm like, that's the dream that you created to be able to talk to your guides, because the guides are trying to talk to you in the natural way. They're trying to come through your personality and that voice in your head that sounds like you. And because you believe in separation, you're like, oh, that's just me making stuff up. That wasn't my angels. Even though they tried to make it sound like you to make sure that it wouldn't freak you out. Because if you heard another voice in your head that didn't sound like you, you'd probably go insane and call it schizophrenia and create that belief system. Do you see how complicated this dreaming has become? So basically with chakras, if you didn't know they exist, you wouldn't be devising a system of something being blocked, and they wouldn't exist. Just saying. So with people who believe in them, I see them, and then they start believing in blocks because that's what New Age communities teach you. And then I have to start creating devices and ways and techniques and modalities and processes to unblock them and to teach you to unblock them. When I could just easily say, could you stop believing that chakras are a problem? Better yet, could you believe that you could exist without them? Let's see. You weren't ready for that teaching, like as soon as 2 years ago. You would believe that if you didn't have chakras, you'd die. So we worked with that belief system. So now you're in a different belief system because you have expanded exponentially, powerfully, crazy way you've expanded. So yeah, it's what is up with children's languages? They speak purely. You don't need to know what's up. They're speaking from spirit. Again, I spoke in Sanskrit and starseed languages that no one had heard of before I could speak English. I spoke in, I guess, what a religious person would call tongues, but all it is a language that's unfamiliar. And we call it something to make us more comfortable. We put a label around it, which becomes a limitation. And then later in life, you get freaked out. It kind of goes in that way on Earth, if you notice that. All right, guys, I've had a good time, but if I don't end now, I'm going to be late to start my day with working with you in sessions. So I'm going to go for now. Please subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. So please subscribe. And if you are interested in one-on-one mentorship, just go to PamelaAaralyn.com. If you want a reading, you can get that as well. If you want regular teachings 1 to 3 times a week for very, very cheap, you can go to patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. I would love to work with you more. But until next time, I will see you later. Namaste.